All right, y'all. So we have some major changes to the Pridewin tier list for Honkai Star Rail. So we're going to go over all of those changes now. We didn't do them when the patch dropped when the Herta came out because these changes weren't there, and a lot of us had criticisms for it. For example, I have a dedicated video for the Herta, all the characters associated with her in a dedicated video. You can check that in the description if you want. Today, we're going to be covering all the characters that we wanted to see changes for that weren't there on launch. A lot of us had criticisms for this. I didn't cover that in the original video I made because it was dedicated to the Herta, and I would have been here for like over an hour talking about the Herta plus all these characters. So it's kind of convenient in a way that this happened because now we could have them separated out into two different things. So let's go ahead and go over this first. Of course, as usual, we're here again at Pridewin.gg, taking a look at the most trusted tier list in the Honkai Star Rail community, at least on the EN side of things, right? So go ahead and check the description for a link to this if you want to take a look at it for yourself. But the reason why I make these videos is not only to get a general gauge of where the characters are in the meta, but also to potentially critique the Pridewin list if we felt it was necessary, right? A lot of these changes probably were done because of the criticisms that a lot of us had, right? I make these videos, I see Pokey make them a lot, I think I've seen Gacha Smack do them too. These are all very important to give them feedback so that they know what to kind of change and what the community is feeling so they can make certain changes, such as Topaz dropping down to tier 0.5. A lot of people felt like she was maybe okay at tier 0, but maybe she was a bit high, and so they dropped her down as a result of probably their own calculations, but also a lot of community feedback. So let's go ahead and get into this thing. So first, just to get it out of the way, because it is more relevant in the current meta right now with the addition of the Herta, we see characters like the Remembrance Trailblazer moving up. We also see characters like Serval moving up, the original Herta moving up. You see, let's see if there's any other ones that I want to, oh yeah, Argenti moves up as well. Let's see if there was any others that are associated with the Herta, because the introduction of the Herta is causing these characters to have more relevance because, of course, she is a super duper powerful character that just released, and the current endgame content is very heavily catered to her, so all of the characters that synergize with her very, very well, considering how good she is, they get a indirect buff, I guess you could say, from her, introduction into the game. And also, Remembrance Trailblazer having, that true damage and whatnot, I think was somewhat more like underrated by Pridewin initially, and then with, the feedback of players and content creators, etc., and maybe their own calcs, they realized that, the Trailblazer deserves to get that bump up, and look at them at tier 0.5. Like, bro, I think the only time we've ever seen the Trailblazer have a path that was this high was like with the break meta with, Harmony MC. So this is pretty cool to see. You see Harmony MC down here at tier 1 because the break meta is kind of falling off a little bit as they move towards, the Remembrance metas and the Erudition meta, etc. So it's cool to see a free character that literally everyone has perform so well right out of the box and have so many synergies in so many different places, in different forms of the game and with different metas. So I wanted to really give like the Trailblazer a little bit more spotlight than some of the other characters like Serval and the old Herta getting buffed up and, bumped up in the tier list, because this is A, a new character, and B, because they have more synergies than just with the Herta, right? Keep that in mind. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on with the Remembrance Trailblazer, and I think this is probably, in my opinion, the most like universally good Trailblazer we've had so far. I think that means a lot for the meta as a whole, and especially for free-to-play players. Now let's move on to some of the more previously controversial placements that Pridewin had, like some of the critiques that we sort of had for Pridewin with some of the character placing, like Kafka getting moved down, I think was a important and good choice because, bro, she was sitting up here with Jing Yuan. This guy has probably received more indirect buffs than like any 5-star character in the game, bro. He's got like a ton of different relic sets that were brought into the game that gave him synergy, a bunch of different characters that like worked really well with him. Like one of the relic sets is specifically like designed to work well with him, and I think it works like the most on him than it does any other character in the game. And now you have Sunday, bro, in the game who is literally a summoner buffer, and this is like the summoner boy right now. You know what I mean? Sure, Topaz has a summon as well, but like I think that, you know, Jing Yuan's getting more of a buff from someone like Sunday than Topaz is, because Topaz wants to be on a follow-up attack team, and we'll get to that in just a second. I did want to like talk about Kafka, you know, briefly. DOT is, you know, kind of suffering right now. There's not a whole lot of DOT love in the game. There's not a whole lot of releases that, you know, have really helped out DOT. I have a video that I just released not long ago going over the whole entire DOT situation and all the problems with it, as well as some solutions that they can put into the game to help DOT. For example, we still don't, look at the right column right here. We still don't have a dedicated DOT sustain. Huo is our DOT sustain right now because of the energy and attack buff she gives. But she's a universal healer. She wasn't put into the game specifically to be like, here DOT, this is for you. She was put into the game so that everybody could have a good healer that is universally good on basically all teams, pretty much, right? She's just a good character that it just so happens to work well with DOT. You know what I mean? Ron May, bro, this is not supposed to be a strong DOT support, but she is indirectly because of how universally good she is, and the enemy like res penetration that she has really helps DOTs too. Also, the break slowing down enemies, and, you know, just generally having team-wide buffs so that you could run like 2 different strong DOT characters on the team. That was very strong. Again, not specifically meant for DOT. Same thing with Robin. This was not meant to be a DOT support, but she works very well with DOTs. Austa, where is poor Austa? Austa is a very good DOT support, but she's a 4-star character that suffers from the 1.0 debuff, where she does have literally a DOT of her own. She also has like team-wide attack buff and speed buffs that all like very directly helps like DOT. Again, she kind of wasn't necessarily put into the game at launch as a DOT support. Kafka wasn't even there yet, but she's the closest thing to having a kit that is very strong with DOT. But again, we still don't even have truly a proper 5-star dedicated DOT support either. And the only like 5-star addition besides Kafka that we got for DOT was Black Swan. An amazing addition, but if like Black Swan and Kafka are the most noteworthy things for DOT, bro, we don't even have a full DOT team yet. Think of the potential that's there that is just going to waste. Okay, so one day we'll see DOT rise up again, but it won't be, you know, right now. It'll be maybe a little bit further down in the Amphorius block. We'll just have to wait and see how things go. Currently, she deserves to be brought down here to tier 1.5 because she just doesn't have the juice compared to somebody like Jing Yuan. Now, you hate to see it, Bronya getting bumped down to tier 1.5. Except I don't hate to see it. I've been saying it since launch. Ting Yun's been better than Bronya this entire time. It took y'all like a year to finally recognize this chick was like god tier on friggin' launch. Straight up. Remember the Mr. Pokey and Gacha Smack drama going between like who's better, like Rom May and Bronya, and like I think we all know who won that argument, by the way. I mean, check it out, bro. I mean, come on now. But bro, while Pokey's sitting there praising Bronya till the end of the earth, bro, he's got a Ting Yun body pillow staring him in the back of his big old skull, like sitting there like, benefactor, have you forgotten me? Are you really sitting there praising this bitch while I'm sitting here right next to you? Proof that he's out here praising that Bronya better than Rom May when Bronya ain't even better than Ting Yun. What's that? What? Whoa, dude. Whoa, that was a take. That was a take. Okay. And by the way, don't go out there hating the guy. Okay, come on. Everyone's allowed to have sort of a mid take. I've probably had some stupid takes before. You know what I mean? Like, it happens. Okay. But anyways, I wanted to say this because Bronya, like, being brought down is not, it's kind of like not necessarily because of anything too specific. It's just that she just isn't performing as well as other characters. And because she's not exactly SP friendly at E0, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, she just kind of doesn't hold up anymore, you know? And when you're playing like certain teams, like that can really benefit from having Ting Yun there, Like, it's just unfortunate for her because wherever you could put a Bronya, there's usually another character that you could put in her place that'll usually perform better. And in some cases, that's going to happen with Ting Yun as well. But there are still some teams out there where Ting Yun can perform pretty darn well. Like, I've put together some crazy crack teams with like Clara and, Yun Li over here, where like, you put a Ting Yun on there, you spam Ting Yun's skill because the team is so skill point efficient, right? Then you basically keep perma-ulting with Yun Li. Like, it's basically permanently up. You put a character like Huohuo on that team too. Now you have even more energy and more attack. The team is so skill point efficient that Yun Li is just cracking off all of the time, basically perma-ulted, and you got the same thing going on with Clara too. That's just one team example that I'm showing you, right? But like, there's other teams where you could do fun, goofy stuff, right? Even if you're not talking about like the best teams in the entire game, like some of these like characters we see up here that we build our teams around, like Acheron, Herta, Fei Xiao, and like Firefly, maybe you're not putting Ting Yun in those teams, but there's still like fun, janky teams that Ting Yun is still very, very strong on, that Bronya like can be good on, but it's just Ting Yun has that edge over Bronya in the current meta right now, okay? In another MOC iteration, like maybe the next MOC, once it switches around, maybe you'll see them switch places. One thing to remember is that this is based on the current memory of chaos, right? And sometimes when the memory of chaos changes, certain characters get more buffs or certain characters have better synergy. These characters move around. That's why we constantly make the lists. All right. So again, I was kind of talking smack. No hate on Poki, no hate on Bronya. They're good. It's just funny, right? But Ting Yun, she actually just better right now, straight up. Oh yeah, duh. And I'd be an idiot if I didn't mention that, of course, Sparkle is still like just going to clear Bronya, right? If you're putting a team together, like, and you put a Bronya on a team, like, you can probably just put a Sparkle on that same team, right? And some might say, oh, put Bronya and a Sparkle on the same team, but then you're spamming your skill just a little bit too often. It can work, but you're talking about an insanely optimized team with insane amounts of speed just to try to make the team work. And when you finally make that team work, you're gonna realize it's not even really better than anything else you could have done. All that hard work basically goes to nothing just to prove a point, when in reality, you could have just run a different character and performed either as well or better. So just something to keep in mind. Sure, Bronya has her place in the meta, but like I said, characters like Sparkle and whatnot, there's just other options that usually will fit better into that team. Now let's talk about these follow-up attack characters, because as we sort of make this shift towards, different metas in the game, you see like metas that are sort of specific, like breaks or the follow-up attack meta, like you start to see them fall off a little bit as, the end game content favors other characters like the Herta or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and talk about Mose being down here, brought down to tier 1. And this is, I think, a good thing because there is definitely a noteworthy difference between Topaz, for example, and Mose. Mose is kind of more circumstantial. He has really good synergy in the follow-up attack meta, but Topaz is putting up better numbers than Mose. It's just facts. And she's also more universally good, has more universal utility, and she's also not just a character you have to run in the follow-up attack meta. You can run her in other places as well. Again, just there's more things on her list of what's good versus a character like Mose. He's good, but compared to Topaz, it's not quite the same. There is a stark difference between the two, right? And if you're going to bring Topaz down from tier 0, then it makes sense to bring him down if there is such a stark difference between the two. And so you don't see March getting brought down because, again, they see more universal utility with a character like March than you see maybe with a character like Mose. So just something to keep in mind there. Now, I wasn't going to nitpick them for her original placement in tier 0 because I do feel like she is the best of tier 0.5 right now if you're just looking at these 3 characters. But something to keep in mind is that, when you are cracking off at all cylinders with a really, really powerful follow-up attack team, Topaz will still be that better character. So I wasn't going to nitpick them too hard. I'd rather nitpick them about things that I felt like were more important, like some of these characters that were a little bit low considering how much synergy there was with Herta. Those things were more important, like Trailblazer's placement. That was more important. Topaz's placement, I was okay with it, because in my opinion, she sat somewhere in between tier 0.5 and tier 0. So again, I'm okay with this. I can live with this change, but I could have also been okay with the previous placement. Maybe I was biased because I have a really strong follow-up attack team, but it is what it is, and I'm okay with this. And I think you guys probably agree. All right, now let's talk about some controversial placements that did not actually get changed in the recent update. I'm of course talking about Acheron's placement and Firefly's placement. A lot of folks were sharing their sentiment that Firefly shouldn't be at tier 0, that she should be like at tier 0.5, and Acheron shouldn't be at tier 0.5, she should be up here at tier 0. Some people are like, thank God they finally dropped Acheron, the favoritism's too crazy. Some people are like, bro, why is Firefly still up here? The favoritism is too crazy. Some people feel like they should have switched places. My take is that their overall performance right now is not all that much different from each other, right? I feel like Herta and Face Shower still performing a little bit better on average. It really depends on the power output of your full entire team. Something to remember is a lot of these placements are based on the entire team you build around them, not just their own personal performance. Something to think about there. And I feel like if these two characters are maybe a little bit better than, let's say, the Firefly, then I don't know if Firefly should necessarily get bumped down, but I feel like the power difference right now between Acheron and Firefly's team performance is not too much different. So if you're going to put them on a tier, you should put them on the same tier. So if you're putting Acheron down here in tier 0.5, I feel like Firefly should also be here in tier 0.5. I feel like if you're putting Firefly up here at tier 0, I feel like you should keep Acheron up there at tier 0. Maybe not the top of tier 0, but I think you see what I'm saying here, okay? Now, I have a little bit of a bias because I do have an E2 Acheron, E2S1 Acheron. Unfortunately, I can change the light cone, but I can't take off the Eidolons. It is what it is. It's the only premium character I have Eidolons on, and it kind of sucks for these tier lists going forward because I can't turn them off and test them at E0. But everyone that I've been speaking to and talking about with this will say sometimes they go into content with their Firefly and she doesn't get the job done. Then all they do is switch to their old Acheron team they haven't touched in a little while, and they clear the content the first try. What does that tell you? I don't know, man. I think that tells you that in some cases, the Acheron still performs better than the Firefly, and sure, there's going to be some circumstances where the Firefly performs better than the Acheron. I feel like they should be on the same tier. That's my take, okay? Based on everything I've heard from other people's E0 experiences, and I have tested on other people's accounts her at E0, and I still feel the sentiment is the same, okay? I just don't get to play those E0, my friends' accounts or whatever every single day. So I wanted to ask you guys what you felt about this situation, because I still feel like the fact they didn't change this or talk about this at all will remain probably the controversial take against Pridewin for this list going forward right now is the Firefly and Acheron placements, all right? The two simp, armies for these two characters are, constantly at war with each other. Try to ignore how much you've gooned to these characters and try to just think about the meta. And in the comments, let me know what you think about Firefly's placement, Acheron's placement. Let me know if you feel like, Acheron's good here at tier 0.5 or she should move up, Firefly should move down, or she's good where she is. Or if you're like me and feel like if you're going to put them in one place, put the other there. Like they should either both be tier 0 or both be tier 0.5. Let me know what your take is on this whole situation. If you like this kind of stuff, consider leaving a like and subscribe. We cover, Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, drama, anything gacha, as long as it's good. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.